The way that Andor describes the Force is perfect. The context of everything surrounding it, and really how often the Force has felt misused a lot of the time, is just gone in one perfect scene. How to show what spirituality feels like from afar, what significance it holds to a story of this depth in an era this revered. I don't know if we can simply muscle our way around it anymore. Depictions in modern Star Wars have chosen a different target audience, one that sees the super soldier side of the Jedi and all of its assets. People are resistant to change, and given how much of the evolution of this franchise is rooted in not rocking the boat, I wasn't sure if Andor would ever broach the subject. I know for a fact that I didn't anticipate it being addressed this way, but I have to admit I was curious whether or not we would see the Force at all. And if we did, could Andor really honor it in the way it has everything else? Part of me hoped we wouldn't. The same part of me that hopes that this week Luthen isn't revealed to be a former Jedi or masquerading as a covert Sith loyalist. I've been underwhelmed by the low-bar depictions of the Force in a lot of Star Wars. As far as expectations will allow, my opinion is far more abject than analysis. I would argue that its depictions are less engaging than ever before, and long gone are the days of finding spirituality inside teachable moments, because everything has to be more than before. Sometimes less is more, sometimes subtlety is everything, and it speaks volumes for the Force. Whether or not the characters more sensitive to it are entitled to it, that's a whole different video. I just don't condone breaking the ethics of your storytelling or reducing the mysticism of the veil itself. It still needs to hold some meaning, somewhere. This superpowered ex machina opens the door to many temptations for any writer brave enough to engage with it, but that freedom is double-edged, and recency bias just isn't cutting it anymore. What have we really come to learn about the Force? I'm not talking about midichlorians or the Mortis gods, I'm speaking specifically about the everyman. What has the Force felt like, looked like, taught us in a dizzying time period? Where is the spiritual part of Star Wars? That's what Andor gets. Like the original trilogy understood the spiritual side, what made hokey religious radicals stand out to someone like Han, as relatable as all of it was engaging with the fundamental forces of Star Wars just beyond the veil. We felt more for the characters when they felt more, and were given more to consider. And Cassian having no immediate interest in entertaining the possibility of special purpose is precisely the kind of risk that separates Andor from its contemporaries. Why choose to water down the gravity of your story with low-hanging fanfic when the alternative is so much more rewarding? Your universe is dynamic, and the people in it are diverse. The Force gets this right on principle, Andor gets this right on the spiritual, and Star Wars returns to something fundamentally inspiring. I don't want to pitch myself as too dismissive for compromise, as I love the prequels, I love the Clone Wars, I love some of The Mandalorian, but very rarely has an example of creative restraint been displayed in a way that harmonizes with its influences instantaneously. A good storyteller can glean from their characters a spiritual connection, and that's all the Force is at the end of the day, a connection to deeper understanding. What this Force healer is doing to Cassian, by continuing his character as this anchor for others' grief, is honoring his entire life's journey to this point, and canonically crystallizing the unknowns. Everything he sees, or carries, or escapes, it all works as the connection to what Star Wars has always been about. A vessel amplifying the most important story this canon has ever seen, and it's not just some dice roll pick-me-up get-out-of-jail-free card. In fact, only the healer walks away with any kind of clarity. Cassian is allowed to further acquiesce to this unknowable destiny, with a perspective to work alongside his role in the world, giving him, i.e. us, something to believe in. Call it a divine gut feeling or our proclivity for holistic significance, but this specific return to an older feeling Force in Star Wars is what I believe, truthfully, to be the best representation of the Force we could have. It's not just that it was a tool to save others in the original trilogy, it's more than that. And now it's been acknowledged in Andor in the humblest way it could be. I never expected a Force healer to be the first on-screen depiction of things in this setting, but like everything else in the series, it just seems to fit, as if it was always intended to be there, and it's been so long since the Force left me feeling inspired. I'll go further into my thoughts about the Force in Andor Season 2 and what kind of lessons Star Wars could be learning from this canonical clarity, and I will, but that will come later in my review. The Force still needs to mean something in Star Wars, and I'm so grateful that Andor treats it as such. What a season. And as always, thanks for watching.